those two go together, but everything else should be completely separate. Alright, so at this point, if you do not care about the questions, you can go ahead and quit the video. Remember the prizes, get those Seg of the Weeks in, participate in posting on the website, or I'll even count comments probably in the main website. And if you give me a very nice question that I mentioned on the video, I'll give you a nice prize for that as well. And the prizes, I'll even dish out some of the premium membership for the prizes as well. Alright, so the Advanced Technique series, I'll release that during Thanksgiving break. Get everything caught up on that. Complaints, nothing more to talk about there. So, just the most important thing for this podcast was the prizes. And keep in mind that whatever you do on the website will count towards a prize if it's not inappropriate and is valid enough to count. So now on for the questions. A few things have been asked. One of the things was, now these are mostly X and A. If you have any Photoshop questions, please send them in. I'll be happy to answer some Photoshop questions. But a lot of the questions I have here are just X and A and programming and how to do some stuff. So the first one is saving levels. Now we discussed the technique on how to, let me go into the Advanced Techniques projects. We discussed the technique on how to save a document, how to save our object state so we can resume later on. And what we did here was we had a ship class that is serializable. We have the name, which is string, hull, which is int, hull damage, and we just worry about the public properties. That's what writes and reads in. The hull damage is private, so we do not want to save that. Shield is an integer. Shield damage is private, so we ignore that when we save and load. Armor is an integer. Unlocked levels, and I actually did this tutorial with levels, and you can see what goes on there. So this is one way, is to store the levels you unlocked in a list. And the basic idea is of saving levels is you finish one level, you unlock another one. You finish that level, you unlock the third one. And then you want to save the unlocked levels inside this list. Now this list will need a get and set as well, since we want to save and load it. And this is another private function, private field. Now in the constructor, you want to set it as a new list. And the constructor is launched whenever we go into the game 1.cs, and we actually load it in. It loads up this ship and it goes into the constructor, and it actually goes in here, the empty constructor, and it starts up and sets all the properties itself. So that's what's going on there. Okay, so now saving levels. The saving of it occurs when we want to make a new file stream, and file name is, we pass it to this function, and then we want to open or create. We just want to open the file or create it. Now you do not really want this if you want to go for a correction. As you can see above here, I said if file exists, file name, delete the file. You can go ahead and change file mode .create, because it will already be deleted. You cannot open it since it's already been deleted. So either way, it'll work. Then you want to serialize, make a new serializable object, from XML serializer, and it's going to be a type of the object you want to serialize, which is a ship. And it serializes that player by using those properties, the public, get, and set. It serializes it by getting all the gets, and then when you load it, it'll set everything by using the set property. Then it closes and disposes of the container. Now when you load that, it'll load everything, it'll go into the default constructor, and then actually go into those properties and setting everything in there that you have in your XML. And that's the idea of saving levels. Just have a easiest way to do it is to hold all the unlocked levels in a list, and to add that to the object you want to save as a field, which is this, and a public property, which is this. It has both get and set. Okay, that's question 1. Now question 2 is having a block sprite where no object can pass. In the previous tutorials, we've been building upon a gameplay object class. And if we go in here in the gameplay object, this is a enhanced version from the space shooter. So if you're working with a space shooter and you want the enhanced stuff, go to the tutorials. Go to the main website. Go to the XNA Advanced Techniques samples and get the gameplay object. And grab that new gameplay object.cs file and replace it with the one inside your project, because this is the enhancements in this is pretty cool versus the one in the space shooter. But anyway, for a block sprite, you want to create a block object, and every object you create in a game should be a derivative of gameplay object. Now this gameplay object holds everything your object can need. It holds its status, its active, dying, or dead. It holds its graphic data, which is texture, its rectangle, its origin, its opacity, its alpha value, its color, and it holds its physics data, its position, its velocity, its acceleration, its rotation, its speed. Everything you need to use an object for can be found here. Now what's really important to realize is these virtual methods. Every object is completely different. A player object, a sprite object, a block texture, block object. It can be completely different on how you initialize it, how you update it, how you draw it, and how you make it dying, how it dies, what it does when it's fully dead. Its collision, all that stuff can be, you can override it. Now, if we look at the initialize for let's say a ship, you wanted to initialize in the center of the game window, you would override this method, public override void initialize, and you want to set the position. Remember, that's a vector 2 up here, the position to the center of the game window, and then you want to call base.update, because that will set it to active if it's not active. Now, if you do not want an active sprite or an active object right away, just override initialize and delete base.update. You can delete the base.update so it will not perform this code in any derived classes. So now for the interesting bit, let's look at the update. A block sprite or block object that does not allow any objects to pass through it. So you can override this method if it's a block sprite and actually I'm in the wrong method here. I apologize.